Test, test. Red is on. Test, test. Testing 1, 2.
Hi everyone, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes, so please take your seats.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Demo Day. We are so grateful to have you all here. We're really excited to get started and showcase all the amazing work that a bunch of companies and agencies have been doing over the course of this year. I'm Drew Zachary. I'm the director and co-founder of the Opportunity Project.
And I'm Mara Abrams, managing director of Census Open Innovation Labs.
Before we get into the talks, we want to skip all of the upfront and just make sure that you guys can get right into hearing from all of the teams who have built amazing products this year. But we wanted to give you a quick overview of what the agenda is going to look like for today. So we're going to start with some leadership remarks from our leadership here at the Department of Commerce and the Census Bureau. And then we'll have a series of lightning talks from, you may have noticed all of the tables set up at the back, which you will actually get to interact with and test out later. But we'll hear some lightning talks from the people who have participated in the Opportunity Project over the course of this year. And then we'll have a very exciting fireside chat, which will not have a fire, but we'll have really exciting agency leadership from across the agencies that we've worked with this year. I'll turn it over to Mara to talk a little bit about social media, and we are live streaming today.
Yes, so as Drew mentioned, we're live streamed, and we also highly encourage social media. The hashtag is #OpportunityProject, so please do leverage your social media networks to get the word out about this great event. So now I'm going to go into exactly what the Opportunity Project is. The Opportunity Project is a process that was started 2 years ago by which government and communities and technology, the tech industry, can all collaborate together to build digital products that increase American economic opportunity. And some of the, so the reason that it was started are three primary things, and it comes down to people. So it's about, this is really the heart of it. It's about empowering people with technology and showing the power of the data to really improve people's lives. Next, we're making data more, making government data more accessible, and by partnering with the tech industry, we're able to do that a lot better. And finally, this is about collaboration. So we're creating a lightweight pathway by which, you know, the people can work together across different sectors and industries. So open innovation, you're going to hear this term quite a bit. This simply means looking beyond our own walls to be able to solve some of our key challenges. So open innovation is really about bringing kind of outside expertise, outside innovators in so that we can solve some of our challenges together. And this is a perfect example of open innovation. This is about Census collaborating with outside companies, different federal agencies, as well as tech companies, universities, et cetera, et cetera.
So I think we've lost our visual here, but while we're waiting to get it back, we also wanted to just do a quick poll of who is in the room today. So who's from a tech company? Okay, a lot of tech companies. How about federal government? Federal government also. Local and state government. Okay, universities. Philanthropy, foundations. Awesome. Anybody else that we missed? Want to throw something else in the mix? Okay. Community-based organizations. Yes. Community-based organizations and advocacy. Anybody else? Great. Okay, awesome. So we have a really diverse group here, and before we turn it over to our leadership to talk more about that, I just wanted to point out that all of the people who are in the room today are the people that we work with in the Opportunity Project, and to just give you a little bit better sense of what this actually means. Over the last few months, 10 companies, 5 agencies, and a bunch of community organizations and cities have been working in a collaborative tech development sprint process. So this is what open innovation looks like in practice. We pull all of these people together in a process for 12 weeks, and they build new tools together in the open. And human-centered design is a really important part of that process. It's something that we value here at the Census Bureau and that all of our partners do as well. And that means pairing up tech companies with user advocates and people who really are on the ground and know these issues very intimately and can help to design technology with open data that's really going to benefit the end user. Since we've started this process 2 years ago, we've followed that sprint process for 18 different problems. We've worked with 10 federal agencies and over 15 cities and local governments. And over 50 digital tools have been created through this collaboration. And you're going to hear about 10 of the latest ones that created just over the last 6 months today. So we will get right into that as soon as possible. And first, I want to turn it over to our Undersecretary for Economic Affairs from the Department of Commerce, Karen Dunn-Kelly. We're incredibly grateful for her leadership and the fact that she is here today to talk a little bit about, more about why this is so important to the Department of Commerce.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Mara, for, well, they're leaving the stage. Goodbye, then. We'll say goodbye. Thank you, and goodbye. You'll hear from them later. And also want to thank Ron Jarman and Enrique Lamas for their support and help through the census. I'm actually very thrilled and honored to be here today. I have personally, in my professional career, been a consumer of the data that has been produced by so many of the bureaus. I have also been on the edge of what is the best technology to get and use that data. So this really, for me personally, and it is a very, very exciting combination, and the partnership between public and private also makes it even more compelling. I also want to share with you that Secretary Ross also is committed to the improving and timeliness and use of accurate data. So this is really very important to everything that we're doing at Commerce. So we're here today, as said, to see the 10 new tools that were created on top of the 40 that you've already had the opportunity to see before. But really more broadly and more importantly, we're here today to shed a spotlight on the products that can come to bear when we work together across sectors, leverage our diverse skill sets, and try to tackle problems rapidly and creatively by using the best data and technology that we have to bear. Commerce has been the lead in this project since January, and under our leadership, we've engaged 10 tech companies, 5 agencies, dozens of local and community organizations, universities, advocacy groups, and others that were just mentioned before, and I hope I didn't miss any. And some people in the audience are saying, well, why Commerce? Why was Commerce involved in this? Well, we are actually known as America's data agency. The bureaus underneath Census consist of NOAA, BEA, NIST, and of course, Census. And what we do is we collect and maintain data on the nation's GDP, weather, land, people, neighborhoods, and so much more. So we will really think that we're at the spot in which it was important to make this happen. The project, the Opportunities Project, was really founded to help us reach across sectors and to collaborate on problem solving. The real value is not just in creating the best data that a government can create across the globe, but it's building the partnership to unleash that data to help both nationally and locally, and that's what this is all about. And we can accomplish that so much more effectively and efficiently by working together, by bringing the design talents of the private sector, the technologists outside of the government, together with the government to make it happen. The data is only as valuable as the tools that make it available to the consumer. And when we think about it in that dynamic, it's very clear why this group is so important. The data that was used was not only created by Census and the Department of Commerce, but also the Department of Education, OMB, Treasury, the VA, and HUD. And I want to just recognize, and if you could raise your hand since we had hand raising before, how many of those groups are here today? And what's nice about this, as we heard about, and we saw the hands raised before, how many people are here from the federal government here, how many here from tech companies, they're intermingled, so you can see that this IQ compounding is already happening. I also want to thank the fellow agencies because they've already committed to working with us on the Opportunities Project, not only for what they've done in the past, but what they're going to continue to do. The department is really very, very excited about this project, and we are really very excited to continue to build an environment for collaboration and learning across the agencies. I hope, if I have a hope, I hope that as you go through and you see these new solutions today and you get excited, you not only are inspired by them, but you really have a call to action as to how can I be involved to take this even to the next level, because it's that collaboration that will make this work. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Ron Jarman to talk more about the census and their work on the project.
Well, thank you, Karen, and it's good to see all of you here today. Really exciting to talk about this. As Karen said, the Commerce Department is very supportive of the Opportunity Project in particular, and the Census Bureau's efforts at innovation more broadly, and so we really appreciate that. At Census, we like to think, and we try hard to be a leader in innovation. I'm not sure we always succeed in that, but I think the Opportunity Project is an example of how we are sort of moving out in some useful ways to sort of improve the usefulness of the products that we provide to the public. We do have a unique mandate to reach every citizen of the country and where they are and what they're doing. And so I think the Opportunity Project is an excellent example of trying to combine the data that we collect with the right tools to reach people where they are to make their lives better. Today we're going to talk about 10 new 21st century tools. This is, I think, just the tip of the iceberg of what we can accomplish using the model that the Opportunity Project brings to bear. So I think it was Mara that said you're going to hear the term open innovation several times today, and I think that's a critical part of this. The Census Bureau can't do its job without the help of the citizens and businesses in America. First of all, we need your help to give us the raw materials with which we make the data products that we provide back to you. But perhaps most of all, we need to know what problems are important to you so that we can make sure that the data that we're providing address those problems. And I think the examples that you're going to see today are an effort to try to marry the problem with the data with the tool, and that's what's particularly innovative about this. I think one of the great aspects of what you're going to see today is the use of technology to make the data available. In the past, we used to collect the data and publish it in books that sat in libraries, and so the data were useful. To the people who had access to libraries, primarily researchers and sort of government officials and what have you. But through the use of APIs and digital tools, we're pushing the data out to every citizen in the country, and I think that's what's particularly engaging about this for me. So you're going to hear about two challenges today. We asked the tech teams to address. The census challenge was how we might create digital tools that enable individuals and communities to see and experience the value of the census in order to increase participation and engagement. Again, this sort of open innovation model. How can we get the sort of feedback loops from the people we're serving that both improve the data and improve the tools? From the White House and OMB and Treasury, the challenge is how we might create digital tools to make federal grants more user-friendly for local leaders. The best and most innovative solution to these problems result from people working together from across disciplines with the right sorts of expertise and subject matter knowledge. Whether it comes from a government agency, whether it comes from a tech company, a community-based organization, or what have you. So with that, I'm done talking, and now we can get to the actual meat of the program. I'm sorry that Karen and I are going to have to run upstairs to take care of census problems, but wish we could stay here and play with all the tools with you, but we know that we can play with them later too. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much again to Karen and Ron. I just wanted to pause for a moment before we start the lightning talks. I think there are some folks who are lined up on the sides waiting to take a seat. Please come take a seat. There's plenty of space for you. Don't be shy. So while we're waiting for people, I'm going to turn it over now to Eric Coyle, who's going to start off our lightning talks. And as Ron just explained, there were 4 different problems that these tech companies and communities set out to tackle this year. So you're going to hear from someone who has expertise from the ground level, experiencing that problem to help us understand what the problem is and why that's important. And then the tech companies will take it over and talk about the solutions that they've developed. So I'll turn it over to Eric.
Okay, thank you, Drew, and thank you all for coming today. And so these are going to be very quick, short lightning talks. So as our acting director pointed out, Mr. Jarman, the tech teams here were presented with a particular census challenge in regard to how do we increase participation rates in the 2020 census. But not only that, but also how do we increase awareness of the data and get them to experience and interact with our data as well. So when I think about this challenge and the problem statement associated with that challenge, a particular quote comes to mind, one of my favorite quotes, actually by the former CEO of Netscape, Jim Barksdale, who said that if we have the data, let's look at the data. But if all we have are opinions, then let's go with mine. Now, the reason why that's one of my favorite quotes is because it actually exemplifies the importance of data-driven decisions and the need to have quality data to make those data-driven decisions. So in order to get that quality data, we need participation. It's imperative that we get participation in all of our surveys and censuses to produce the quality data to help people make those data-driven decisions. So again, it's not just in regard to the 2020 census, but also in regard to our surveys and programs out there, which account for over 130 through the course of a year. So the challenge is, for these tech teams, is to create innovative tools to not just engage with our normal data users out there who are already aware and familiar with our data, but really the general public. How do we get the general public out there that isn't really familiar with our data, doesn't really normally interact with our data very often, or doesn't even understand the benefits of how the data relates to their community, whether it's funding for schools or hospitals or roads, whether it's small business owners using our data for market research. There's lots of different ways that we can educate the public. So through the Opportunity Project, we are meeting this challenge. And very excited to pass on the mic so we can quickly get to seeing how some of these these particular challenges are being met. So thank you all very much. And I will now pass it on to our team from Cisco. There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Susie Wee. I'm from Cisco DevNet. You probably know who Cisco is, but you may not know what DevNet is. DevNet is Cisco's developer program. Shubha Govil and I are here to speak, and we have 2 parts to the talk. One is kind of why is Cisco here and working with the Opportunity Project and how we're working with Mara and Drew. And then Shubha will go into the project itself. So, so just to kind of quickly speak, the slide before, yes. So there's actually a big industry transformation going on in the technology world right now, which is in the problem that Eric was just talking about. We want to count and reach all of the population. But if you think about it, there's a lot of transformation going on in the roads, the communication tools, that whole infrastructure that exists. But in addition, there's a transformation in the network infrastructure, the technology that underlies it. And we think that that underlying technology that the network provides can actually help us with this big problem. There's a change in the programmability of the network, the way that people are connecting using wireless technologies, the way that they're accessing the web. And through all of this, we can actually use these tools to get a better count of what's going on. We've built out, Cisco has a very large ecosystem of partners around the world who are connecting networks and providing this infrastructure. As we founded Cisco DevNet 4 years ago, what we're doing is trying to advance everybody. It's a developer program where we're teaching them the software skills that all of the IT and network operators around the world need to pick up to be able to provide that next generation network. And what happens is the network not only provides connectivity now, but it has information. The wireless network knows how many people are here in this room right now, because everyone probably has a wireless device, a mobile device that's connected. That can actually be used to generate interesting data. So, whenever you connect to wireless, you get data. Whenever you're, using collaboration tools, you get data. We think that this can be matched up with all of the open data that's available and existing out there. And so what we wanted to do was to tie Cisco's developer community in DevNet. We have 430,000 developers around the world who work at places like FedEx and Boeing and Costa Rica, network partners and everything there. And we wanted to bring them together to solve now social and community problems. And so we teamed up because we reached out to say, how can we solve community problems? I actually reached out to Megan Smith, who was CTO under the prior administration. She connected me into a number of folks, including Mara and Drew, and they said, why don't you take a look at this opportunity project? So our goal is to kind of take all of the people who are working on network and IT infrastructures around the world, have them help to solve and work on important societal and community problems like this. And this is where we started this great collaboration. Drew has participated in our DevNet events with Cisco and has interacted, and many folks here. And now we've actually jumped in on this actual opportunity project sprint, and Shubha Govil will talk about the problem that we solved.
Thanks, Susie. Thank you, Susie. So this was a great opportunity, no pun intended, for us to work on the problem of census low response rate. One of the things that we found early on working with Eric and Logan and Drew was this tool, which was already there. It's called Story Map. And as we started looking at Story Map, most of our developer audience, as Susie mentioned, 430,000 of those, these are techies. We first looked at the map in our area, which is, let's look around Silicon Valley where our headquarters is. And there was a big green spot which represented very low response rate. And this was also representing another problem, which is a lot of the mobile millennials in our areas, our devs, our students, this population is not very aware of data. Plus, they are not, to make it usable, they need to know where to find it, how to use it, and why they should care about. So starting with that, we did a lot of work with the local stakeholders in the Valley, as well as data analysts from Census. We created a learning game that will help them talk a lot more about or learn about these data sets that are relevant to solve a problem. So let me quickly go through that few views of this game, and we'll be live behind at the demo. The users can be the data superhero, pick an avatar, go through an emergency. In this case, there's a fire alarm specifically in Chinatown in San Francisco, so there's some relevant data to look at and worry about. And they have to find that hidden in this map. And we'll let you play with it more, and at the back, as well as it's going live today. It's available on developer.cisco.com /census. and we'll let you play with the game. The big part around it is once they finish their game successfully, they get to a learning lab built by Logan and helped with Eric that they can learn how to use census data and also learn about Cisco APIs, things like Cisco Meraki that can help scan. Location scanning can tell you the people in the neighborhood, if there's a fire, how to reach them, where they might be. So just a quick demo from Cisco DevNet team. Thanks, everyone.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Laderman and I'm a data analyst at Measure of America, a nonpartisan nonprofit project of the Social Science Research Council based in Brooklyn, New York. At Measure of America, we really live and breathe census data, using it to produce reports and tools on well-being and access to opportunity for communities across the country. So we have a really clear sense of the value of an accurate census count. But the task for all of us here today is to communicate that value to the public broadly. At Measure of America, we produce tools that make data easy to access and understand. On the screen behind me, you can see Data to Go New York City, a free online data mapping and visualization tool combining city, state, and federal data. About half the indicators available on Data to Go come from the American Community Survey, the annual survey conducted by the Census Bureau in between the decennial census years. We built Data to Go 3 years ago and added some additional data sets as part of the Opportunity Project 2 years ago. For this round, we wanted to explore how Data to Go specifically and visualization of census data more broadly could assist in the census outreach process. So we partnered with the Asian American Federation, an umbrella organization of 50 community groups in New York City that has coordinated a really robust outreach program for the past 2 censuses. In conversations with a number of these organizations, we talked a lot about drivers, about how to take people from what matters to them to understanding how that is impacted by the census and why they should fill out their census form. For the most part, these organizations have a good sense of what matters to their constituents and a strong understanding of the importance of the census. But what they needed more assistance with was that part in between, with accessing census data, finding facts to help people make those logical bridges, and displaying that data in fun and catchy ways. So funding is a very tangible way that the census affects people's everyday lives. And not only in terms of federal programs that allocate resources according to the census, but also in terms of individual organizations using census data to make the case for their work in grant applications. You can see here 2 iterations of a type of poster that could be used to draw these connections in a senior center in Flushing, Queens, a heavily Asian American neighborhood. They help illustrate that the center could better advocate for its programming if it can show the neighborhood's high rate of people over the age of 65. This sort of messaging could be applied equally well to any topic or organization. In addition to print materials, we've talked about other ways that having easy access to census data is useful to these organizations. For example, identifying target neighborhoods and topics for public outreach, like bus shelter, TV, and radio advertising. We're putting together workshops focused on the census using Data to Go for the leaders of these organizations, and then perhaps for youth groups and communities more broadly. So the takeaway for me is that at its root, census outreach work is all about telling stories about why data matters. And in the 2020 census, community organizations that people already rely on and trust are the ones whose stories are going to matter the most. So we need to make sure that these organizations are first actually able to access and use census data, but second are sharing publicly the ways that they're using that data and how it matters to their work. We recently completed a project in which local organizations used Data to Go to tell stories about their communities using infographics, videos, and reports. We put them all together on a website, like you can see here, which in many cases serves as a library of how people are using census data and why it matters. Something similar with a little bit more of an explicit census focus could be really helpful for people and organizations doing outreach work. Because in the end, the goal is to really bring data out from behind the scenes so that people can have ownership over their own census data, to know what their responses are used for, and even to access the results themselves, to be able to look at what's going on in their communities and advocate for themselves. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Yerushalmi, and I'm with IBM Global Business Services Federal Consulting Practice. And this is actually the first time we've had the honor of participating in the Opportunity Project. And so we're obviously very excited to look at the problem statement. And at first, the problem statement is actually very straightforward. However, as we quickly learned, creating a meaningful way to address that challenge was a much bigger hurdle. And so what we did was we spent weeks of time conducting interviews and research. We actually, instead of the 1 or 2 weeks recommended, we spent about 4 or 5 weeks conducting research in order to determine sort of which cohorts were the most impacted and how we could use our skills and our tools to address that challenge in a meaningful way. And so what we found over those couple weeks was that the individuals experiencing homelessness were actually most in need of being counted so that they could receive funding in their districts, and so that funding could get them the services that they needed. And so, for example, if you look at LA County, which is where we focused our efforts, there's about 58,000 individuals experiencing homelessness in LA County alone. So if you take a look at the map, you see, based on the different colors, 75% of these individuals are actually living on the streets or in makeshift shelters or in cars and things like that, which makes it very challenging to reach these individuals. And so as we began digging in, we saw that this is also a large challenge for the Census Bureau. So the Census Bureau for 2020, the decennial census, plans to employ 43,000 people to conduct this count. And that's mainly done via pen and paper operation. And so what we did was we engaged a variety of different user advocates. So the National Coalition of Homeless Veterans, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, and most importantly, the US Census Bureau Field Division. And what we did was we sat down and we had workshops with them and conducted interviews via something called the design thinking methodology, which is this human-centered approach to innovation that you heard about at the beginning of the talk. And what came out of those interviews was what you see on the right over here, which is actually called an empathy map. And what that does is it helps designers understand what their user, what their customer segment is doing, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, what are they saying as they're conducting this homeless count, for example, what are others saying about it. And so it allows you to really design your solution around their needs. And so that's exactly what we did. And so we used a development methodology called Agile, which is an incremental development approach that basically allows rapid response. You put out several prototypes, you let people feel and touch the product, and you take that feedback and you're able to quickly and dynamically modify your tools so that you meet their needs. And ultimately, what we came up with is an iOS app called PopCount. And so what this app does is it supports the logistics, the planning, the coordination, and the data collection effort that's undertaken during the homeless count. And so what you have is you have a supervisor that logs in and they can put in all the locations where they're going to conduct this count, and they can organize the logistics and assign it to the various field representatives. And then the field representatives go out and they select the location that they're assigned to. They click survey, pull up a survey, and they can complete all of that information. Eliminates a lot of the paperwork, almost all of the transcription process, any issues you have with tracking survey responses to that particular location. And it also helps when they're conducting the unsheltered count. They can select a region on the map, and that way a person only focuses on their region, so they're going out and counting those individuals who are unsheltered. And therefore, there's no double counting or anything like that. So this is the tool that we've developed. We're hoping that in 2020 we can pilot this tool, hopefully before 2020 with the LA County Field Office. Also, Housing and Urban Development does an annual homeless count, which we're hoping to help them with. And so we are very excited to use this tool and help address some of the challenges with conducting the homeless count. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Bentorf-Smith, and I'm a researcher of public interest AI projects at MIT's Probabilistic Computing Project. And all that's really just to say that we're looking at the same basic problems as the ones you've heard about all of today ahead of the 2020 census. Because we see two distinct challenges, and one is the general need to increase the self-response rate. We know that this can result in important savings for the federal government. More importantly, or as important, is the need to address the disproportionate undercount of certain populations, often referred to as hard-to-count populations, because as we all know, census data helps determine the allocation of economic and political resources. Now, imagine if we could address these dual challenges with something as simple as a search engine. This is where BayesDB comes in, what we've developed at MIT, and that is basically a search engine for public data powered by probabilistic artificial intelligence. By using this form of software, we're able to address important questions. One is basically what types of variables predict the response rate. This is important to understand what we're looking at or looking for, what our partner is looking for. And the second is, where should we be looking to find out more about what works? So let's say we might be looking for counties where we see an unusually high response rate despite certain demographic characteristics, such as a large presence of hard-to-count populations. So let me show you briefly what a search engine for public data might look like. Basically, it's a plug-in to a spreadsheet such as Google Sheets. And what you see running now in the background is the AI generating statistical models. And with that, you can query the data with just one click. As I was talking about earlier, looking, for instance, at what variables predicts the response rate. This is often, as we see here, age, housing stability, and whether you rent or own your house. And what you can find this way is connections that you might not otherwise find, because we know regression is often driven by certain theories of change and is just one model. The second, as I referred to earlier, is that we might be interested in a certain example of a county. That is a place where we have a relatively high response rate, but also a relatively sort of sizable, hard-to-count population, such as college students. And now the entire spreadsheet is basically sorted accordingly, and we can go in and look at those counties where we're seeing this particular phenomenon that is of interest. And so in speaking with various potential users, and we had sort of a broad net that we cast initially, but for this particular challenge, mainly community organizations at the local level, we found that BayesDB could help address a number of key bottlenecks for them. One is that it's accessible. As I just demonstrated, anyone who understands a spreadsheet with one click is able to find quite interesting relationships in the data. Secondly, it's cheap. It's cheaper than hiring a team of statisticians. You just need to pay, we've estimated basically $2 per spreadsheet to run this. And it's important to note that it's open source, so that sort of feeds into both of those points. And then again, it's extremely fast. Some of the data journalists we spoke to who are looking into questions around the census would spend as much as 6 weeks trying to find the types of matching pairs that I was showing earlier. And then finally, we can audit the AI because it has to make its assumptions explicit. And there's value in that if we want to go back and try to understand some more about this. So with that, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caleb Barton, and I am the program officer with True Colors Fund, based out of New York City, but we have an office right here in DC. And I'm here to talk to you about the issue of youth homelessness. Now, typically, I don't like to bring up the problem so much without offering solutions, but fortunately, my new peer, my new colleague, Jeff, is going to come with with some information from Excella to offer solutions right after me. A bit about True Colors Fund. True Colors Fund is an organization, a nonprofit organization, non-government organization that is dedicated to the eradication of youth homelessness. We do this through our authentic, approachable, optimistic, collaborative, grounded creativity, quirky, and innovative work. All right? So a little bit about youth homelessness. So youth homelessness in this country has become quite an issue to the degree where it has received a lot of attention in the past few years. Even so that the Department of Housing and Urban Development decided to release a $33 million grant, $33 million grants to 10 different communities across the nation, all focused on finding best practices and solutions in effectively ending youth homelessness in those communities. So True Colors Fund is working directly with these communities to provide some technical assistance around what are those best practices and what are those solutions. And what we have found is that, number one, majority of young people who are experiencing homelessness identify as LGBTQ. As a matter of fact, it's overwhelmingly 40% of youth experiencing homelessness identify as LGBTQ. Those folks have experienced homelessness in a myriad of different ways. And so this probably speaks to some of the prior presentations in the sense that it may be that hard to reach or hidden populations, and some young people may not even know that they are experiencing homelessness. But essentially, that definition has begun to expand in the sense that we had to make sure that we also captured folks who are couch surfing, or folks who aren't necessarily chronically homeless, but they weren't in a safe and secure environment nonetheless. So with that being the case, we feel, True Colors Fund feel that we do have to approach the issue in innovative ways to be able to find those quote-unquote hidden populations, identify them, and make sure that they are placed in a space that is safe and protecting of themselves. So what is currently happening is that we are looking to expand the definition of homelessness, and what the Census Bureau can do and Excella can do to benefit that is through the technology, through this opportunity project, providing this application that young people can be able to access. Believe it or not, but millennials love technology. All right, so millennials will be accessing this because a lot of times young people who are experiencing homelessness, although they may be disenfranchised and may not have a lot of things, they usually have this somewhere near them. They have a cell phone, right? And so they can actually access the applications to be able to receive information about solutions or options for them in their communities, and also they can be able to expand their knowledge of exactly what homelessness looks like for them. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Jeff from Excella, and he's going to tell you about their project.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Supis, and I work at Excella Consulting. And we are an IT consulting firm based out of Arlington, Virginia. And we have a number of clients in the public, private, and nonprofit sector that we help to bring different software development solutions. And our problem statement that Caleb just talked about was we were given the task of creating a digital tool to help youth who are experiencing homelessness. Now, through the Opportunity Project, we are pretty familiar with building digital solutions at Excella. However, the Opportunity Project helps to provide us different ways to kind of work with technology. So it introduced us to working with new problem statements, such as working with youth homelessness. It introduced us to working with different local advocacy organizations and different local and federal agencies, such as HUD and ED. And so because at Accelera we're used to building solutions, we're used to doing human-centered design, but we had to kind of do it with a different approach, just because we were tackling a problem that we didn't have much experience with. And so the first thing we did is we gathered all of our different user advocates, so True Colors Fund and a number of other local organizations that work with homeless youth. And we also gathered Department of Education and HUD together all in a room to kind of understand what this problem was and what they believed needed to be done in order to help these homeless youth and how technology can kind of be a bridge for them. So after we kind of got some ideas, we were introduced to this sphere of youth homelessness. We then were able to work together with different homeless youth through the different organizations we were working with. We had some ideas out of that first initial brainstorming session. We made a couple of different mock-ups and sketches, and we then were able to work with different youth who were currently experiencing homelessness to get their point of view, to understand what they're going through and not just hear it secondhand. And this was a game changer for us because prior to this, we had just heard about youth who were experiencing homelessness through other people. But this was the first time we were face-to-face with them, and we got to connect with them. And we could put faces to the products that we were building. So after this, we had a ton of information, so we gathered around a lot of pizza and we just brainstormed. We iterated. We had a lot of different ideas. We had a lot of different solutions in mind, and we just started to iterate, to work off of what we were doing. And so this is a screenshot of just our first iteration. It's very basic. We realized that homeless or youth who are experiencing homelessness, there are a lot of resources that are available to them. There are shelters, there's food banks, there's Wi-Fi spots, but a lot of times they had difficulty kind of connecting to that. So our first iteration, we took all this information from them and we kind of created just a very basic search engine where they could put in their location and it pops out different resources. After that, we decided to make it a little bit prettier, add colors, add pictures, and then we took this to the different youth that we've been talking to, and we gave it to them, and we thought we had solved the problem. We're like, cool, this is everything. This is going to solve every problem that you had. But as we saw them interacting with it, they started thinking it was Airbnb. They asked us, cool, how much does it pay to use this? How much do we have to pay to get in contact with the different hosts here? And so we realized, like, okay, we kind of need to go back to the drawing board. We need to and go back to ground zero, take all this information, and start iterating and start working with different data sets. And so what we ended up with was MySpot, which is a website that is for these homeless youth to connect to the different resources that they have. They can enter their location, they can see different services or agencies or shelters available to them. And through this process with the Opportunity Project, we learned a lot of amazing things. We learned the power of working with government agencies and working with local advocacy groups. We learned that digital solutions can help change people's lives. But really the most important thing we learned is that a digital product that is built by and for the users is the product that's going to be the most powerful. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So we're going to take a 5-minute social media break. We want you to give a shout out to #OpportunityProject. Get up, stretch your legs, and just one note, there's a bunch of seats sort of in the middle. We want to make sure that people can kind of access the seats at the end. So when you get back to your seats, please kind of move towards the middle. Thank you.
everyone, we are going to get started again in just a couple minutes. So if everyone can please wrap up your conversations, take a seat, post on social media, #OpportunityProject as much as possible. Okay, thank you, everyone. We are going to get started now with the veterans, homelessness, and access to jobs problem statements. So I'll turn it over to Charlie from VA.
Hi, I'm Charlie Selby. I'm with the Department of Veterans Affairs. I play a very small part in a big effort to end homelessness among veterans in the United States. Back in 2010, the federal government, under the auspices of the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, wrote a plan called Opening Doors. It's the first ever federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. Since that time, we've been working, and we work in partnership with communities. It's a very partnership-driven enterprise. We work with our federal partners at other agencies, state and local governments, but most importantly, we try to help communities find the right solution that works for them. So earlier, you learned some things about how data and data-driven solutions can help figure out where resources go. It's been a very effective process. Since 2010, 57 communities have achieved an effective end to veteran homelessness, including 3 states, and over 480,000 veterans have either been helped to find permanent housing or have been prevented from falling into homelessness. So one of the challenges that you have, earlier that you heard about, was how you array your resources. The other challenge you have is the lived experience of the veteran experiencing homelessness. So you've figured out where they are, you've figured out what the resources are and how to get them to the right place. Now you've got the challenge of, I'm a homeless veteran, and I'm trying to get the stuff. There are all sorts of things that I need. I need access to housing, I need access to jobs, I need access to services. And it's not easy being a homeless individual or someone who is at risk of homeless to try to go out and figure out where all the stuff is. One of the very important things, too, is access to jobs. I can't emphasize it enough. There's a common misperception that the leading cause of homelessness is related to alcohol and mental health. And while many people who experience homelessness do suffer from alcoholism and have mental issues, the #1 leading indicator of your risk of becoming homeless is poverty. And the cure for poverty is this thing called a job. I once looked at data on women veterans who accessed the VA for any type of homeless service. 75% of them were employed. Of the 75% that were employed, so they're demonstrably able to work, 66% of them made less than $1,000 a month. So I would like to say briefly thank you to my friend David Marin, who said to us one day, you should get involved with the Opportunity Project. They will help you find solutions. As we get near the end, we still have about 40,000 veterans that experience homelessness at any given one time. It becomes increasingly difficult to find ways to link them to those services. And so data and technology are key. And without David having brought us to this opportunity, we would not have had the opportunity to work with the really exciting tech solutions that you're going to hear about next. So thank you very much, and we look forward to, thank you for letting us be here.
Hi, my name is Michael Simpson, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Parent. And before I start, I'd like to recognize the team that helped create the solution. We have Alejandro Vasquez in the back, Sebastian Makeson, Brendan Keogh, and Mike Dragala. So thanks, guys, for all of your work on this project. This is actually our second opportunity project. Our first one last year was using Department of Labor Open Skills API to allow military spouses to find meaningful jobs and careers that match their proficiency levels in soft skills that we measure, things like leadership and resiliency, things that are attractive to employers. And honestly, that could have just ended up in an interesting prototype if we had not met David Marin with the VA and Eddie Minster with the Department of Defense, who encouraged us to take it further. They also told us and helped us understand more deeply the problems that outgoing military personnel and veterans have with transferring their understanding of the skills and experience that they have into private sector jobs. And that is a major contributing factor to the tens of thousands of homeless vets that we have in the United States. So we are very pleased to announce Parent Pathways, which is an actual product. It's not a prototype. And it is the very first career exploration tool that has value for your past as it helps you map your future. We use several different data sets in this system. So the very first thing is, of course, the Open Skills API, but we also use BLS, ONET, NCES, Department of Treasury, OMB, and other private data sets as we map your career pathways. We 100% personalize that based on your individual soft skills proficiency levels, your experience, also your personal preferences and interests. So we help you see your skills and your strengths and also your gaps. And at the end of the process, we help you to have a resume and create one for you that can be optimized to make it through the applicant tracking systems and hiring filters through our partner Entry, who is here today. We also point out to you and introduce you to different types of degrees and certificate programs. We even connect you directly to those programs through the system, and we connect you to our 300 online soft skills lessons for allowing you to improve your skills before you go to those jobs. We also point out interim jobs along the way. We show you how ready you are for those jobs. We show you the gaps to those jobs. And we even go the extra mile by connecting you directly to employers that have openings for those positions through connections that we have with job boards, popular job boards like ZipRecruiter. So in the end, we have created a system that not only introduces you to careers, but it actually makes those connections directly to the individual programs that will help you along that path, as well as the employers that have those jobs. And I have to say that what began as an interesting prototype, really 18 months ago when we started our first Opportunity Project, has turned into a real product that has literally transformed our company. Before the end of this year, in fact, probably before the end of this month, we will close a deal with a state to introduce this product to it. We're talking to entities in 3 different countries that actually use ONET data in those other countries to integrate our system into their countries. We're probably 2 days away from a deal with a post-secondary software company that will introduce our product into 100 colleges and universities within 3 years. We're talking to another organization that has the opportunity for us to connect to 12 million college students directly. And with our partnership with Care Partners Plus, we have the opportunity to serve up to 40 million veterans and their spouses. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, for David Marin with the VA and Drew Zachary and the whole Opportunity team. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm John Peterson. My title is Leader Catalyst for Care Partners Plus, which means I poke people with a stick to get them to do what they need to do. But actually, I'm the Chief Operating Officer. And in the back here, I've got the CEO, Mike Manning. We've got our Senior Vice President, Marty Minetti. We've got our Vice President for Materials, Diane Freed. And I'd like to give a shout out to Dave Marin because he was instrumental in introducing us to a lot of different people in the process. Am I pressing the wrong button? Ah, there we go. Okay, so our problem statement is broad, and I'm going to start off big and then neck it in smaller. But how do we measure something as big as the VA in terms of success? What kind of metrics can we use? The VA is a huge organization with a lot of different sub-organizations, benefits. It's got the biggest health organization in America. How do we measure success in that kind of an organization? Well, the solution is a secure, HIPAA, web-based platform that can access all different aspects of the elements that a veteran is able to achieve. So if you look at the gray circle here, it connects a lot of different organizations, and it does that in real time, and it puts the veteran in the middle. So there's no more of the veteran going to this agency, being told to go to that agency, and back and forth. The veteran can get where he needs to go, or she, immediately and effectively. The system also provides transparency for the veteran, so the veteran knows where their request is in the process. And it provides accountability for the VA to know where the hiccups are and take action. So I understand that the pilot is kind of a bad word in the VA, so we're gonna have to come up with a new one, but we conducted a pilot and in Washington, DC, Philadelphia, Camden, New Jersey, and a location in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And we were focused on veteran suicide, but we couldn't really address suicide without addressing the concomitant factors of homelessness and substance abuse. So if you look on the right side of the slide, we looked at addiction, we were looking at homelessness and how that affected suicides. We did the pilot, we had 175 veterans come through. We were told they were not gonna answer any questions. They weren't gonna give us the information we needed. And we found that to be, and they weren't gonna be technologically savvy. And we found all of that to be untrue. The veterans were very forward with their information. They answered 93% of the questions through the surveys that we gave them. And we identified 3,000 high-risk indicators that, if not acted upon, would cause the veteran's quality of life to decline. So we think it's a tremendous success. The one thing I do want to point out is at the bottom there, 12% of the population was unknown to the VA. So that's 1 out of 8 veterans that came through the door was not registered with the VA, the VA didn't know anything about them, and so those are the ones that are gonna fall through the cracks. And this, our system, Get Vets Help, is designed to prevent anyone from falling through the cracks. So instead of calling on the phone and getting the voicemail that says, "Welcome to the VA if you're having an emergency," I mean, it took me 46 seconds of listening to that before I got to if you want to make an appointment. You can do it right here on your phone. Your phone, your tablet, or any device that connects to the internet. You get a home screen where you can select what you're looking for. It'll kind of channel you in and help you focus. And then as soon as you hit send, you get a date timestamp that says your request has been launched on this date and time. It went to this person, not this office, not this agency, this person. And if you don't get an answer back in a certain amount of time, which is designated by the VA, let's say 2 days, if you don't get an answer back in 2 days, it gets elevated automatically, and that person's manager gets a notice saying, hey, it's stuck. So again, transparency for the veteran, accountability for the VA. It also gives a history. So it has a database where we can store a veteran's information. One of the biggest problems that veterans face is, okay, show me your DD-214. And if they don't have it, they don't get the services. This makes it accessible to them. These are the screens that the managers would see. The manager can pull a data screen and see how their workers are working. And what I want to cover in the next steps is very simple, really. We want to build new functionality. We want to partner with people here. And we want to explore expanding this as a shared service throughout the government. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I see OMB. Thank you for having us.
Census, thank you for having us. This opportunity project is something that I personally have dreamed of for 16 years. I'm Meryl Oliver. I'm the COO for eCivis. I'm also the former director of the Maryland Governor's Grants Office, the former deputy director of the Office of Management and Budget for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, in charge of federal funds, and a 3-term president of the National Grants Management Association. So I am fully vested and invested in making federal grants data user-friendly. The bottom line is, and here's the problem statement. It's several pages. The bottom line is, we want to know, and I'm going to put my end user hat on here, where's the money? We are still having difficulty, even though grants.gov has been around for a number of years, accessing funds that we are entitled to and eligible for. That's our primary focus. When the governor's chief of staff approaches you and says, hey, find $1.3 billion to help close our gap, that's a challenge. We also want to know, with strings attached, where do we go to get the information to learn about how to manage these dollars? And then we want to understand, are we getting our fair share? That's pretty much it. There are things like the Data Act out there. We know that we want to have common data elements, but it all drives to that end point. We want to have access to the dollars. We want to understand that these dollars are having a positive impact on our communities. And we know that the federal government has a lot of data to support our efforts in ensuring that these dollars are spent on their intended purpose and that our communities are benefiting. However, that data is spread all over the place. It has taken me and some of my teams weeks to actually get at that data to produce the kinds of reports that the Opportunity Project, in partnership with the private sector, these tech firms, are now able to produce at the click of a button. So I'm not going to take any more of your time, because what you're about to see with the federal funds portion of the technology today is extremely exciting. State and local governments, local municipalities, nonprofit organizations, university sector, this is all for you. So thank you, OMB and Census, for allowing us to partner with you to develop these much needed tools.
I'll get to the right button. Good afternoon. My name is Rob Sherman. I'm the product marketing manager for eCivis. And our entry into the Opportunity Project is Grants Intelligence, which today would really not be possible without the two wonderful people at our back table, Mr. Sammy Hodo, our Vice President of Technology, and especially Nick Tunney, our Software Engineering Manager. There we go. I'll try this one. Is this better? I was told that would work. Again, I'm Rob Sherman. I'm the product marketing manager for eCivis. Our entry in the Opportunity Project is Grants Intelligence, which really wouldn't be possible without Sammy Hoda, our Vice President of Technology, and especially Nick Tunney, our Software Engineering Manager, who really did an amazing job. We set out to create a truly transformative digital tool to help maximize grant funding. And you might ask yourself, why grants? Well, you know, grants fund a significant portion of government activities in the state, local, and tribal governments. And they really address some of the most pressing needs in our nation, and that's something we care a lot about at eCivis.
So we conducted a survey of thousands of state, local, and tribal government, and we revealed a major roadblock in maximizing grant resources. It was a lack of awareness and training. So based on survey results, we developed key areas of our digital tool grants intelligence. In find funding, we used CFDA and USA spending data to identify funding at the state level and in key categories. Because approximately 80% of those federal funds go to the states, but they get subawarded. And this is where our subrecipients are going to want to look, since most local government, private sector contractors, as well as nonprofit recipients, simply aren't eligible to receive federal awards. In the future here, we want to add e-civis data to create planning tools, such as grant calendars and predictive analytics. In this area, states and potential applicants wanted to know, oops, did I go too far? There we go. Sorry about that. I think I'm missing a slide. In this area, states and potential applicants, they wanted to know if they got their fair share of funding. And with CFDA and USA spending data, we built tools to explore spending allocated to each state across the country, and also to drill down into the largest recipients of specific program dollars, because we wanted to help states understand where they, or individuals understand where they fall within their state, but also where the states compare with other states. And in the future, we plan on expanding the research lookups to include per capita spending filters. We want to include county data, which we just got access to. Oops, for some reason this keeps moving on me. As well as funding trend charts and PDF reports. This keeps moving on me. I got one more in here somewhere. In this area, recipients and subrecipients of federal dollars wanted to understand if they were a good steward of federal funds. I'm really excited about this part. We built tools with the single audit clearinghouse data to help them understand their own performance, as well as how their performance compares with others. And applicants should really position this information in future grant applications to provide evidence of good stewardship to a funder, or at least talk about how they put an audit resolution program in place to help reduce these findings. Because this is what's going to ultimately strengthen their applications. In the future, we'd like to expand on the single audit data to include audit finding narratives and additional risk assessment tools, as well as watch lists, no pay lists, DMB profiles. And we want to thank the Opportunity Project for giving us the opportunity to give us access to this data, but also the cohorts at the OMB and Treasury for working with us to let us provide feedback and make this really actionable. We really wanted to make sure that we could maximize grant funding in a truly transformative way. I hope you'll come to our table and check it out for yourself. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Farron Levy from True Impact, and we're really excited to be here, so thank you very much. So every year, government agencies, corporations, foundations, individuals invest well over $1 trillion in more than 1.4 million nonprofits across the country to address some of our country's most pressing problems, from education to housing to hunger to health. But the question is, what's the social impact of all this funding? And which of our investments have been the most successful? The reality is we don't really know. And that's because grantees typically will quantify the reach of their services, how many people they're touching, but not how many of those people achieve success and improve their lives. More often, success stories are exactly that. They're creating narratives, custom for individual funders, and they're very time-consuming to create and to read, and you can't run analytics on them. The real problem is the sector lacks a common set of outcome performance metrics. The True Impact web platform is designed to address that problem. It's really like TurboTax for social impact reporting. It guides a grantee step by step through accessing an evolving library of outcome metrics to create a standardized social impact report they can use with any funder. So now, when True Impact corporate clients like AT&T or PepsiCo or Wells Fargo make a grant award, our system automatically generates a copy of the grantee's social impact report and sends it to the funder along with a calculation of what portion of that social impact they can claim based on their investment. As a result, the funder can take all of their different grant data, roll it up in aggregate, and generate much more compelling reports, and then also look at their individual investments and compare the ROI of them to help inform future decision making. So as we expand from our Fortune 500 corporate market into government, the value proposition is virtually the same. Government agencies can use these social impact reports for their grantees to forecast out the expected social impact of their grants using these standardized outcome terms, and the agencies can use that information to more easily evaluate and make apples to apples comparisons to make the best investments. And then once they make the grant awards, the grantees can add actual data to those social impact reports so the agencies can monitor their progress and then ultimately harvest the information at the end so they can report on the social impact of their investments. Final piece is they can take all of that data and start identifying best practices and benchmarks and to share that with the stakeholders to drive continuous improvement going forward. So we're very excited to be part of this, the Opportunity Project, in part because that's kind of the baseline product. Our vision is to create a network, almost a massive LinkedIn-type network of social impact reports. Imagine if all 1.4 nonprofits created free, publicly available social impact reports that peer nonprofits could access, learn from, identify opportunities for improvement, and then also facilitate matching between funders and nonprofits. So this was a first big step towards that latter piece of connecting, where now when a grantee fills out a social impact report, they can click the Seek Funding button. It immediately queries the grants.gov database, and it displays all of the grants that they likely qualify for based on characteristics they've already embedded in their social impact report. Because our platform is based on an open API foundation, it can do this kind of thing with virtually any database or any existing system. And that's what we're really excited about. One example we have here, imagine usaspending.gov, which is tracking the spending, government spending across the nation. So it's focused on cash outlays. But if we were to marry the True Impact platform with this information, we could couple spending data with outcome data. What are the results of that? It enhances public accountability in a huge way. And then even further, if you get more granular, you can look at the grantee level and start to see effectiveness, cost per outcome, and even ROI. And that's the opportunity, again, for other grantees to learn from their peers, identify best practices, identify opportunities for collaboration, and then even funders to inform their investment decision making. So we're very excited about this and the possibilities and are thrilled to talk to anyone about it. We're in the back. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much to all of the teams that have done lightning talks. I just wanted to tee up Carl, who's about to speak. We often get the question on our team, what happens to these tools? And many of you may be wondering in the audience today, what's going to happen to these tools after the sprint process. You know, we've worked with all of these companies in a 12-week tech development sprint, but what happens after that? And Perrin is a really great example of what happens, you know, in the year after an idea is first started. But we asked the team from Ovella to come back and share the work that they've been doing since they participated in one of the Opportunity Project sprints in 2016 to help us understand you know, the great things that can happen when these teams continue to learn about and work with their end users, incorporate new data, build out new functionality, and really turn these into sustainable technologies. So I'll turn it over to Carl.
Thank you very much, Drew. So thank you everyone for making today come together. I'm Carl, and I lead a fantastic team at the tech company that was first to build eStonia, the world's leading country in digital governance, and I'm from rural America. As a boy, I left a city, Rochester, New York, with all the resources I never knew existed, for a town of 400 people, Bath, North Carolina, and 4 last names. Then as a teen, I left that booming metropolis and scene of many a Nicholas Sparks novel for an even more exciting one of 200 people in Disputanta, Virginia. What I learned as a boy from those towns, those deep-hearted homes, was that story is everything, and all of us are the heroes of our own novel. It was not imaginable to me what would happen next, but it was the stories of all those heroes that prepared me to face anything. Anything turned out to be a wild ride, familiar to many of us in this room of world-changing people. For me, it was Estonia, a tiny but adorable little e-state, one that has spent the majority of its history having its neighbor try and fail to wipe its people and its identity off of the face of the earth. It realized in the 1990s, with its newfound freedom, that like the rural America of my youth, it had few people, few natural resources, and practically no money. That challenge and profound will, familiar to all of us in small towns, led Estonia to innovate its way forward. Today, it is the only developed country running nearly 0 debt to GDP. It is the inventor of Skype, Hotmail, blockchain, and for the rock stars of this building, and for you, Zach, we've had an online census starting 20 years ago, built by my team. No one in Estonia answers a single survey. That platform actually saves 800 years of working time annually for the Estonian population. 800 years of efficiency for only 1 million people. It was one of the oddest phone calls of my life. Hey, there's this guy, Ross, from this thing called the Opportunity Project, and he just asked what we think about using all this data to solve persistent public policy issues in the United States. What do you think? I thought, and I still think, that this is one of those unique moments to do something remarkable together. Gathered here today, you are some of the top experts in your fields, but most importantly, you are passionate about what you do. We took Estonia's passion for digital governance and married that to Opportunity Project data to create a tool to help tell the story of rural America online with data and federal funding information from USDA. Our secret weapons in Estonia, instead of metal, stand in the information society. We took that tool to the place it matters most, home. Here I was in upstate New York with USDA Rural Development, having just met with 3 communities eager to attract more investment and growth, when we took a pause in trying to save the rural world online to play with my cousins. 2 remarkable, brilliant little ones full of stories, adventures, and most importantly, deserving of a future that will enable them to achieve anything they can dream without regard to geography. A moment in their company could fill countless web presentations with stories. It's all about the story. For generations, we have told our children and each other stories as a primary way of passing forward information. Not rows of numbers, not graphs, not GIS maps, not Arc Online, stories. This is FindYour.town, a tool we took on the road, visiting promise zones from Kentucky to Texas, and with a pilot project in New York. It lives on data such as that from Census, along with live USDA funding and eligibility data to empower the future of anyone from anywhere. Not just only use cities. USDA had just made this data publicly available for the first time, and we were there to immediately take that data and leverage it into that core need of storytelling. Leaders in places such as rural New York and countless rural American communities lack the technology, the skill set, and the funding, even if it's only $10, to tell their story online. That's the real difference between Pulaski, New York, and Albany, New York. Pulaski has a website. Albany has 15. This tool isn't about Java. It's not about HTML. APIs don't matter. The tool is about you here today, and it represents an idea to do more with our work, to bring our work home, to enrich and grow the lives of those who've helped us write our stories. We stepped a little bit closer to opportunity for girls and boys in every field and every community. One of the most needed parts of Find Your Town was actionable data. This has inspired us to launch Color.me, a tool based on Find Your Town's platform to make the data portable to anything at any time. It's widget packaged and visually appealing. It's specific and actionable data that any web designer can grab and stick in any website anywhere. Now we have one wish for you. Take out your smartphone. You all have a smartphone. It's like a supercomputer in your pants. And go to color.me. And then look at the mock-up images. At the very end of that web page, there's a thing that says help us out. And on the help us out, you'll find a Google form with some questions. I'll admit it's not the easiest thing to do in 5 seconds like Facebook posts, but you know, put it on your to-do list. And we could really use your thoughts. Be a part of building this with us. So on to the next grand adventure, the fireside chats to change the world together. After all, we are like characters in a novel. We don't know how the story began or how it will end, but it is up to us, trapped forever in the middle of the book, to make it extraordinary.
Thank you so much to everyone from the lightning talks. We're actually going to ask everyone to take a very brief social media break. So if everyone could stay in the room, please. If you can access the internet, please tweet something, share something on social media with #OpportunityProject. And next up, we are going to hear from leadership from across our agencies to talk about open innovation. So we'll take about a 5-minute break and then get started. if you could please take your seats. We're going to get started again. So please find a seat, wrap up your conversations for now. We're almost at live demos, so if you're at the live demo tables, try and wait 30 minutes before you dive in. I'm going to turn it over now to our panel of leadership from across agencies and Zach Whitman, who will be moderating.
Hi, guys. My name is Zach Whitman. I'm the data officer here, but before we go, I can't go another second without first thanking Drew and the Opportunity Project for putting this incredible event together. Thank you, guys. It's truly an honor to work with crews like this. The passion, the engagement is something that inspires me every day, and it's truly an honor to work with all of our Opportunity team members. So thank you, guys. So this is a fireside chat. There's no fire.
There's no side.
There's no side. Everyone knows that there's...
And it's really warm outside today.
Everything is wrong about this. It's not a panel is what we're trying to say. But I want to keep this short, at least my speaking. They're more interesting. So first I want to introduce everybody. So first we have Jen Bell Elwinger. She is from the Policy and Program Studies Service, Department of Ed. You may know her work from the college scorecard. I got to say that this has transformed the way folks have started to look at colleges. Post-secondary work, for folks actually in the market to go to post-secondary work, this has changed the way folks have started to look for colleges, and it's truly data-driven. And it's truly an honor to have you with us today. So I wanted to thank her for coming. Next, I'm going to go with Dave Liebrick. He is the Fiscal Assistant Secretary of Treasury. Truly an honor as well. He has the very easy job of implementing the Data Act. So I'm sure you have a lot of spare time. Good God. And you know, the integration and the dissemination of transparent government is truly where he is at the forefront. You know, again, something that is truly remarkable. We've already seen a quick snippet of USA spending, and I'd love to get into more about that. But apart from the obvious other things that he does, it's just truly an honor to have you here. So thank you guys for taking the time. And last but not least, Margie Graves, our acting federal CIO of these United States. You know, modernizing IT in the federal government is probably the biggest challenge I think we face today. We're at the nexus of this opportunity, and so she has the impressive job of trying to do that, and I think that's something that is not only incredibly challenging, but incredibly exciting, and we're honored to have you here. Every one of these folks have a scroll length of a bio that we could read out. I would suggest you guys check it out. It's very Googleable, but absolutely impressive folks. So I want to move on now that I've had a chance to embarrass them as much as I could, given our limited time. And I want to just kick it over to Margie right away at a high level. You know, you sit really well in this place of organization and coordinating in the federal space. And I just wanted to get the tempos up for you in terms of what are the key objectives, what are the key things that you're working on in terms of open data in the open data space between public-private partnerships and recruiting and talent retention. Just could you give us a walkthrough so that we can kind of get a guidepost on where we should be looking?
Sure, and thank you, Zach. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. One of the things that I wanted to say about OMB is we may not be the product or the service, but we're the enabler of the product and the service. So what OMB does is it sets strategic direction, and it does that in several ways. First of all, we support legislation like the Data Act. We supported that through running public comment, through providing technical assistance, to letting Congress know what we thought, how this might actually play out in the agencies and how we might make it better. And so when the legislation comes out the other side, it actually has some input from federal agencies and implementation thought that's been put into it. The second piece of that equation is we also promulgate policy at OMB, like M1313, where we encourage open data. We say open by default and also shareable by design. And setting that strategic direction is very important because we follow it up with governance and with implementation tracking and making sure that agencies have the tools and the capabilities to actually go do what we ask them to do, and lifting up those stories that are success stories over time where agencies have effectively had an impact in their mission space or in the public or private sector with the data that they've opened. And then finally, OMB has the power to convene. And we run several roundtables a year. The roundtable that we just ran recently this summer was about open data for economic growth and opportunity. And I'll give you an example of one of the stories that came out of that particular forum, where we had a food company, a cereal company, talk to us about breakfast cereal and how they were noticing that during snowstorms there was an uptick in the buying of breakfast cereal, which would make sense. But they actually timed it with weather data and letting their coupon campaigns run at the same time, that there was an expectation of a storm, and therefore they increased their sales dramatically. So you never know what's going to come from connecting the dots.
I love that anecdote. I think Pop-Tarts are also super popular right before hurricanes. Someone did it, and also the Waffle Houses. When they open up, you know that things are on the mend. Anyway, on that great transition, back to the Data Act, I'd love to kick it over to you, Dave, to talk about what has it been like working under these last 3 years now in terms of implementing the Data Act, and what innovation can kind of stem from that good legislation?
Thanks, Zach, thanks everyone for being here. I think, I know looking through the agenda, the really good work that's being done, or the types of demos that are being done, and I would say, if there were one or two things we could do to better restore trust in government, one would be to make it easier for citizens to interact with the government. So I know many of the things that all of you have been working on are really trying to make it easier. If you look at sort of much of the data recently, it shows that federal websites are falling far behind private sector websites in terms of user satisfaction. And I think that's not because the federal websites are getting worse in many cases, because the private sector websites are getting so much better, and the expectations for the end user have increased so much that when they come to a government website right now, they're very disappointed. And so one of the things I think for us working on the Data Act was an ability to look at something new and different, to look at an approach for actually extracting data and actually presenting it to the American public and to citizens in a way that they could actually use it, was a really good challenge for us. And I've been in government for 28 years and involved in a number of large-scale projects. And this was actually in some ways one of the most interesting projects, in large measure because we didn't approach it the same way we approached all our other projects. We were putting together a system about 5 years ago called GTAS. It's to take data from the federal agencies and then produce an adjusted trial balance. And that project took us 5 years and untold millions of dollars to put together. And the day that we launched the project, we had lots of problems. And we had lots of sort of changes. And this is not unusual in many of us who have been in large-scale projects. Day one is always a little bit like this. When we launched Beta USA Spending, the site, we had no problems. And the reason we had no problems is because we were using an agile design process, and we did it in 9 months rather than 4 years, because we were looking at what the end user was actually interested in and trying to engage the end users in the process and the development process in those short sprints. So I'm sure Agile is not particularly unfamiliar to many of you in the audience here, but it is very unfamiliar to many in the federal government about how you can actually take a project and really make it user-centric, and starting with the end user about how can you satisfy their needs and make a system that's actually going to work to meet their demands. We also ran a program called MyRA where we were recently, and the same kind of thing where you start something new, it's oftentimes very much easier to bring innovation to it. In that particular case, when we started the project, one of the things that we did was try to put as much data as we possibly could on the website. And we learned and actually started doing research about where do users move their eyes. You know, how does actually someone go to a website and what kinds of things do they do? And found out that you really want to simplify that website, not complicate it. Well, most government websites are very complicated. Very few of them, unless they've been designed in the last 5 years, sort of have a look and a feel which is not very user-friendly. And I think that kind of approach on the Data Act of really trying to see what your users want, how they're going to consume the data, what's the best way to give them the data, was really an important aspect that I think we can't lose sight of. And I do think that ultimately leads to better trust in government. Makes people feel as though that their tax dollars are being spent in a more wise, the stewardship is being done in a way that they can be proud of, rather than in a way that says, wow, this is really something that's 20 or 30 years behind. Now, I can go on for a long time on that, so I'll stop for that, for there.
Don't stop, no. I think it also leads to a sense of discovery. I think a lot of folks, especially outside the Beltway, aren't sure what we have or what kind of holdings could have impact on their daily life. And I want to kind of turn that to efforts that, Jen, that you're involved with, especially with the college scorecard. If you could walk through some of the really great thinking you guys went through in terms of developing that idea and where it led onward from there. I mean, you learned so much from putting product out and returning feedback. What has that process been like for you?
So it's been fun. I mean, this is a fun room, and the work that we've been doing has been a lot of fun at Ed around the data work. We have cleverly called it Inform Ed, gadunk. And under that initiative, really we've been charged with freeing the data. But freeing the data doesn't mean just dumping everything into a boring old CSV and have folks have at it, because that's not how most consumers want their data. So what we are trying to do around all of our releases is really thinking about that 360 data user look. Who are those users? Are they parents? Are they students? Are they researchers? Are they developers? So we've been putting things out in API format. We've been putting things in data stories. That's been a very powerful tool for us. Parents and students, they don't have time to sit and download data and play with it. They want to just, what does the story say? What are the high points? What do I need to know? And then also, with that, we have the data stories, the APIs, and then finally, of course, we do have our fun CSV files for all of those data wonks who just want to get down and dirty. And the college scorecard was really built on that design around that 360 look at how people are going to interact with the data. We have a consumer site for parents and students that can search on a school, and all that information comes up. And this year we launched a comparison tool because users said, yeah, it's great to see it, but we want to see it across different schools. So we've been able to launch that. We have the API for the technical users, the developers, and then also the CSV files. And I wanted to just give you a couple of stats to say, hey, when you do this, this is the kind of numbers that you get. In 2 years since we've launched the college scorecard, we've had over 2.7 million users come to the site, over 2,300 API users, and over 84,000 downloads since the launch. So that really means that we're able to get the data into the hands of those who want and use it. Another example of this kind of work is actually we got Google to help us out, and now the college scorecard data is fuels the Google knowledge box. Did I say that right? Knowledge box. The knowledge box. So when you if you Google a college, the data that is inputted or outputted from the knowledge box is fueled by the college scorecard. And then finally, things like data stories. We built out a data story using all of our civil rights data collection data, and we built out a data story, a very graphically organized depiction of chronic absenteeism in the United States. And that's still, if you Google on chronic absenteeism, that data story becomes the first thing that pops up as a user. So really thinking about where the users are, who needs and who wants to use it, who could be using it, and really being creative about that access and accessibility.
It's really interesting that you bring up, your partnership, informal as it may be, with Google. How your data is now being federated and then served up in their own environment. It kind of brings up the question. It's loaded in this room, but I guess to Margie, what would this role of Fed and in tech commercial space? How do you feel like the role is evolving over time, and what do you think? What do you think why is it important for us to collaborate so closely with the tech industry, and what's the value that we generate from that?
Well, it's probably hubris for us in the federal government to ever think that we have a monopoly on the questions that would be asked of our data and the value that would be derived from it. And in order to make sure that we're getting the maximum benefit, and making data open, it's very important that we interact with the external community in this regard. And I'll give you an example. One of the lightning talks really resonated for me because at Friendsgiving that I was at over the Thanksgiving weekend, we had about 50 people under a tent, and we all have a passion for farm to table. And it is a growing trend in rural development. And what I was trying to determine after having that conversation with my friends, because we were talking about actually finding a plot of land and going into a co-op and co-owning it and actually creating this kind of a business as a sideline. And I thought to myself, what a better way to do that than to go to the Department of Agriculture first and start pulling up, okay, what kind of land is available in the area where we were, what kind of crops can be grown there, what kind of co-ops are available that provide the market for it, and where are the restaurants that are actually drawing from that co-op. And when I think about that, there are multiple data sets from multiple entities that get mashed up to actually give me the answer to that question. So the more that we can put the data out there unrestricted in the sense of we haven't decided what the questions are, and so we haven't developed these reports and assumed that that is going to be the end of the discussion. We've actually just put the data out there and had people ask questions of it. And when we do that, I think we automatically see the magic happen. In this particular case, my friends and I are possibly going to pursue this little venture. It all started with a conversation over a Thanksgiving dinner, which resulted in, hey, my community, the community that I represent in the federal government, has a lot of data that could tell us how to do that. And then going and actually searching and finding what might actually help me do that. So that, to me, is the real power of the collective. And then making the things that we were just talking about making it available in the ways that people actually use it, and understanding, as you were saying, the segmentation of the market of the user base, where some people are very scientific about it and will be using it in those kinds of formats, and others want it served up to them in more of an application form, where they can actually derive immediate answers from search engines and things of that nature. So we have to be conscious of all of that and provide it all the swim lanes, because you don't know what's going to happen with it until you put it out there.
Just had USGS soil maps flash before my eyes. Just hurt. They're great maps. Yeah, Dave, I want to kick it to you on that, because you're in this unique space where you've created this website that rivals, I would argue, commercial ventures that arguably do really similar things. So like USA Facts, Ballmer's initiative. I think that, how has that worked, with you almost kind of leading the charge in a lot of that way? The data being shown, the methods, just how beautiful it is really not typical of your typical federal page. And so what has that been like for you?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, I think I want to pick up on what Margie and Jen have said, because they're both making the same, we're all three making this very same point, which is You know, when on the USA spending, we went on just a little bit of research early on and said, look, there were 3 kinds of users. There were going to be people who were prepared to have the information pushed to them. There were going to be kind of casual people who would come in. They'd want a nice website. They'd want to see some interesting information. Then there were some people who wanted to use analytical tools on the website. They wanted to actually, you know, what tools did you have available that we could actually manipulate the data and use the data? And then there were people who just simply wanted to download the data and do their own analysis. And I think we can't predict what the data how the data is going to be used. And I think in our particular case, we were quite comfortable with that. If someone wants to make commercial use of the data and either to make their business run better or for commercial purposes, I think that's wonderful. I mean, we know it's public data. It should be available to people and they can use it as they wish. But if it also means that there are going to be people who are going to compete on government business in a way they would not have otherwise, it means that either we're helping small businesses or alternatively we're getting the government a better deal on what we're actually seeking. And so we've had a number of sort of demo days and cases where we've asked people, you know, how would you use this data? And we found situations where someone would say, look, I'm a small business in San Diego and I'm thinking about, can I provide services to a military base? Well, what are those opportunities? Those oftentimes aren't really easy to find unless you sort of have a good access to how government spending is taking place. So I think from our perspective, you know, it really was sort of trying to make sure that we were able to meet all those different kinds of users in a way that was very appealing and very easy for them to do that. And that really came down to how we did our underlying design. And I would say a couple of things on this is, one, this skill doesn't exist very deeply within the government. So we did have to rely on both private sector as well as government employees to actually advance the effort. And I think that what we found, and I think in the people in this room who are on the government side, is we really do need to encourage you to be aggressive and to be innovative and to be out there and be forward-leaning on this, because government agencies aren't going to move very quickly. We've been trying to apply these lessons that we've learned in the Data Act across many of our different areas within the organization, and we have that as sort of an executive mandate to do that, and it's still not easy. You know, where we're saying, look, you know, every time we redesign a system right now, we need to be using this kind of methodology to think through how we make it more easy for the customer or the citizen to use or actually even other government agencies to use our systems. And it's not easy because the old way of thinking about these things is deeply embedded. I think about myself, and when I look at technologies, I think I have to adapt to the technology. You know, that's how kind of I grew up, right? You know, if something if it was a little bit more complicated, I needed to adjust. That's not the case today. The end user's expectation is the technology is going to adjust to them, and we're not doing that very well as a general rule. Certainly not in my organization. I would say even more generally across the government, of really understanding that and doing our design and doing our development in that way.
Yeah, I want to stick on that point. You know, Jen, I think you especially had an interesting experience when you took a look at that end user with regards to the Opportunity Project. I think that story is really, really interesting. What has it been like working on this Opportunity Project and, you know, kind of, you know, having an idea about what this problem statement should be solving and how it should work, and then actually going out and doing the research and finding out things are different than you may have previously expected.
Thanks. So first, this is not that comfortable to just free your data. And so to get folks, this is our second sprint. This is our second sprint with the Opportunity Project. And the first one was actually, it was hard for the department to get used to the idea that, hey, wait a second, we're going to give our data out there and then developers are going to just use it. And we're not going to look at it. We're not going to vet it. And so getting into that mind state as a federal agency that there's a lot of good brain power to use our data with has been something I think that has been very liberating at the department, because again, we can't do this alone, and you all, particularly the tech developers, have such a wide reach, much wider than we could ever encounter. And so in that vein, when we went to go do this round of the Opportunity Project, our problem statement was actually quite different than the product that you see now. We had wanted to have resources that could be available for facilitators in homeless shelters. That we thought that it would be very helpful for those that work in the shelters to have all of these tools available, so when a homeless youth or or someone comes in and needs help and assistance, they could have an app that could kind of, you know, search and find and give those resources. Through the work with Excella and through True Colors, they said, wait a second, we're not hearing that. That is not what we're hearing is needed. What is actually needed is that because homeless youth in particular have their smartphones, what they need to do is have access and be empowered to be able to search on their own for those shelters. So I really hope and encourage all of you to take a look at the application that was developed through this collaboration, because it really, and we had to be open to that change, and it was a change much for the better. It'll be a tool that's really can be beneficial to the homeless youth community.
Yeah, I think that's, it's so nice to see this, this change in thinking of, you know, it's okay to free your data, to let it breathe a bit and see what other folks might pick up and run with it. And Margie, this is a good place to kind of bring you in back to this with the Opportunity Project. With OMB as a convener, what is your, how do you think we can further enable things like the Opportunity Project? Not that we have a, you know, a stamp on everything, but, you know, how can we enable this type of behavior a little bit more in the government, you know, from your position?
Well, I think what we're talking about now is beyond M1313. This is a journey, not an event. And to the extent that we can actually expand the forums where we're having these conversations, where we can lift up the success stories, where we can show people what the art of the possible might be, and then point the public to those areas where innovation is happening and promulgating that. Almost like the buddy system when you think about it. You pair people up with others that are maybe a little further back on the life cycle. So for example, here in Census, it's very forward-leaning. I used to work with Nancy Potok, who's now over at OMB, and she's actually still carrying the flag. But the innovation that has occurred in this building alone, and how when I was actually deciding what we were going to do in furtherance of new policy and open data, they were the first people I came to talk to, and we actually captured their use case as to how they changed the organizational mindset, which is exactly what you were talking about, Jen. You know, like people aren't comfortable with certain concepts yet, and the more that we can demonstrate that these concepts actually drive outcomes, and those outcomes are for the betterment of the health and economic development of our communities, the more that we evangelize, the more people get on board. And then when we show people who have actually demonstrated the success, then people will follow in their pathway. So I think that's one of the things that OMB has the obligation and the ability to do, both through policy, legislation, and guidance. We will be continuing to expand our capability in this arena and to make sure that we're continuously supporting the community, creating that community, expanding the community, creating more demand, and actually, you know, all of those elements together should give us more of an uplift.
So, confession, I failed miserably as a moderator. We didn't get through any of the questions that we needed to, but I think that's a perfect place to end. You know, I think we're out of time here, and so I'll yield the floor back to our closing remarks, but I wanted to again thank everyone here. This has been incredibly insightful, and I just appreciate the generosity with your time and your thoughts. It's been truly inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Zach and to our fireside chatters, or I guess just chatters. So it's my pleasure now to introduce to you our closing speaker. She is our Chief Innovation Officer, and she's going to speak a little bit more to the great open innovation work that is happening here at the U.S. Census Bureau. So it's my pleasure to honor and welcome Kyla Fullenweider. There you are.
There we go. I actually want to just start by giving a quick hand to Drew and the entire Opportunity Project team. This is the first Opportunity Project demo day we've hosted here, and I think it's fair to say it's been a big success, so thank you, Drew and team. So I'm going to keep it very short and hopefully sweet because I know everyone's excited to get on to the live demos. But just a couple things I want to say. You know, I think when we hear the term innovation, it's this sort of, you know, kind of boring, you know, word that gets interpreted in many different ways. But I think when you really think about what innovation means to a place like Census or other federal agencies, it's incredibly exciting, and I think when we think about open innovation specifically, for me it really just means one thing, and that is that we can't do it alone. We need the public-private partnerships that were demonstrated today. These are critical for government to move into the 21st century. And not only can we not do it alone, we shouldn't do it alone, because when we see what happens when we get groups like the teams that presented today to work on some of our toughest challenges, we realize that government actually works better when we engage citizens, when we engage the nonprofit sector, when we engage businesses, and we can actually do our work better. And so open innovation, as demonstrated today, and I think we'll continue to demonstrate as we move forward with this work, is really, I think, critical to our mission into the 21st century, and I think we'll only get better at it. So thank you for all the teams that came out today and helped us show the value of working with the private sector, working with community organizations, and working with citizens who care. Also, I just want to make a quick and very shameless plug, because this is just the beginning, and what you see today are, in some cases, MVPs, in some cases further along, but in many cases, just the very seeds of ideas that are going to become real, substantial, game-changing products and services. And so I want to encourage everybody to continue to visit the Opportunity Project website. That is opportunity.census.gov for those of you who don't have it memorized. And follow the progress of these products, because I think what you're going to see is that the very seeds of ideas that you saw today become really, really critical, not just to the work that we're doing, but the work that other agencies are doing. And finally, I think there's some Census folks in the room. Are there Census employees still around, staff? Okay, great. I know everyone's busy, but I wanted to be the first to share with you an exciting new program that we're going to be launching later this month. A lot of you have heard this term sort of design thinking, human-centered design, user-centered methods come up today. It was present in just about everyone's work. And what that shows you is how critical these methods are to innovation. And so what I'm excited to announce is that we are launching a user-centered methods and human-centered design certificate program, which we think will be a sort of first of its kind in federal government in the way that we're doing it. We're launching it in January of next year, and all Census employees are invited to participate. Our first cohort will be a group of about 20 employees from across the Bureau, and you'll go together through a month-long program that will result in a certificate. The program itself has been designed by myself and Drew, the curriculum, and so we're thrilled to bring the best practices from the private sector innovation and design world into the Bureau so we can start designing and innovating from the bottom up, because we think that that's critical to move the Bureau into the 21st century. And I think even more importantly, we see this as an opportunity for the Bureau to be a world-class leader in human-centered design and user-centered methods. So if you're interested, and I hope everyone here, after seeing all these amazing demos, is interested in learning more, stay tuned for an eternal announcement later this month, and you can sign up. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Mara and Drew, and thank you all again for joining us today and taking the time, and especially the teams whose work was just so incredible and so inspiring. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Kyla. So now we're going to go into the live demos portion of this event. So that means you can get up, walk around. It's super unstructured. Go ahead and use these tools yourself. See how they work. It's so much easier to understand when you're actually the ones using them, and feel free to mingle among yourselves. I just want to go through some additional teams who are going to be presenting or live demoing their tools in addition to the ones you just saw here speak today. So we have here a team called Transity from Oregon State University. So OSU students, in partnership with Teradata and the private sector and some private sector associates, they were actually the winner of a hackathon that was put on by Teradata, Cubic, and Click. They're using public data from the federal loads data set, local Columbus open data, and private sector Cubic data to provide insight to daily commuters and city planners by outputting a score for commutability, the ease of access for a commute. Second, we have Slide. Oh, sorry, that's me actually supposed to be going to the next slide. It's not called Slide. Let's see. Am I on the right one? Thanks, Drew. We have Amplifund, a secure solution that links grant dollars to real-time and real-world results using a blend of social media analytics, program outcomes, and an evolving body of knowledge applied to each interaction.
We're also going to be joined outside the hallway. We'll open all of these doors by our colleagues from NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, who will be live demoing the ICGIS portal, which is a collaborative geospatial content management system. It's the largest GIS implementation in the federal government has ever fielded, spanning over 55 agencies and 77,000 users in one network alone. And I know we have some of our other NGA colleagues here today, so I hope that you'll all stop by. I want to also encourage everyone to stop by the data.census.gov table. We've talked so much about user engagement, and they'll actually be doing live user testing if you want to provide some data to us about the usability of our platform and how you might be using census data. This is a platform that Census is building out to kind of transform the way that the public is interacting and searching for all census data. And then finally, I'll put in a plug for the Opportunity Project Toolkit, which was built out by our team just this year so that anybody can pick up this process and follow the steps that we follow, and we can together, through an open process, improve the ways that we collaborate together. So we hope that you will all stop by, check it out, and maybe adopt the process yourselves. So this is a part of the day that I've been waiting for. It's when I get to thank everyone on the team. I have definitely gotten far too much recognition on this day, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible team that actually makes all of this work possible. So I'm actually going to stop and read through a lot of these names and ask that everyone in the room, if you're here, if you stand, so that we can give you a moment of acknowledgement. So Radhika Bhatt, Anna Wang, Francesca Buetti, Laura McGorman, Mara Abrams, Kyla Fullenwider, Lorena Molina, Logan Powell, Kathy Hartz, Eric Coyle, Tom Edwards, Alexandra Barker, Brittany Dockett, Nazreen Kashan, Jeff Meisel, Zach Whitman, Richie Wang, Stephen Buckner, and Rick Denby, all from Census. Please stand if you're here. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that is, in addition to the incredible team that has helped us just with Demo Day. So I want to acknowledge everyone from IT to getting the Wi-Fi set up to making the live stream possible. Thank you so much as well. And then I'll also take a moment to thank Justin Marsico from Treasury, Victoria Collin from OMB, Nikki Churchwell, Ivan Metzger, Chase Sackett, and Chuck Higgins from the Department of Education, Charlie Selby and David Marin from VA, William Snow from HUD, and then the incredible data stewards from GSA, Census, and HHS, who have all really selflessly given their time to work with a lot of these teams over time and have been critical to making this process happen. I can't emphasize enough that this is a huge team that makes this all possible. So again, if you're here, please stand, and let's take a minute to acknowledge the whole team. Of course, we also want to thank the leadership from all of the 6 agencies that have participated this year. We are so grateful, that we've been able to carry on this cross-governmental effort, and we're looking forward to seeing what 2018 has in store. So as we go into live demos, I'll just remind everyone that we will have a sign-up opportunity for new problem statements, what you want to work on next year, sign up for the user-centered methods training, come do a detail with our team, and interact with all of these teams that have built incredible tools. So thank you so much for being here, and with that, we'll go into the fun part of the day and actually get everybody's hands on the tools. So thank you so much.